Russia could be preparing to strike at NATO's weakest point, the Suwalki Gap, the narrow strip of land that connects Poland with the Baltic States. That's the warning from Philip Ingram, a former senior British military intelligence officer, speaking to The Sun. The Suwalki Gap is only about 100 kilometers long, but its position makes it vital. It lies between Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad region. If Moscow seized it, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania would be cut off from the rest of NATO. Ingram says there are growing warning signs, unusual troop movements, sudden military drills and a buildup of Russian forces in both Kaliningrad and Belarus. He compared the situation to the period before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. According to him, Moscow's rising propaganda against the Baltic States and effort to stir unrest among Russian-speaking minorities could also signal preparation for future action. The message, Ingram insists, is clear. NATO and the Baltic countries must take the threat seriously. German member of parliament urged Berlin to stop fake talks and send Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Calls are growing on Germany to provide Ukraine with long-range Taurus missiles. Bundestag member Roderich Kiesewetter from the Christian Democratic Union said that after Russia's heaviest airstrike since the start of the war, Kyiv needs real military support, not illusions of peace negotiations with the Kremlin. Speaking to the Deutsche Zeitung, he stressed, instead of wasting time on counterproductive pseudo-talks, Germany should follow the example of Northern European and Baltic states. He also urged Berlin to channel frozen Russian assets towards supporting Ukraine. Kiesewetter made clear that Moscow has no interest in a genuine peace deal and shows every day its intent to destroy. Ukraine's army says August brought small Russian gains, but notable Ukrainian advances. Ukraine's top commander, Alexander Syrsky, says last month turned into a period of big tests for the armed forces of Ukraine, but also one of the positive results. According to Syrsky, Russian troops tried to achieve a breakthrough in eastern Ukraine, concentrating forces around Pokrovsk and Novopavlivka, while also planning wider offensives in Zaporizhia. Yet, he said that plans were blocked and Moscow was forced to delay attacks, even moving Marines from other fronts to Donetsk. The general reported that in some directions, Russia still holds a 3-1 advantage in manpower and equipment, and in certain areas up to 6-1. Still, Ukrainian units not only defended key positions, but also pushed back. In August, Russia gained about 18 square kilometers near Dobropilya and Pokrovsk. At the same time, Ukrainian forces regained control of more than 58 square kilometers, including several villages. Ukraine also carried out strikes deep inside Russia. Syrsky said 60 targets were hit with long-range weapons, including oil facilities, air defense systems, and transport links. In total, Ukrainian drones attacked more than 67,000 Russian positions last month. Russian losses are added, amount to almost 29,000 soldiers in August alone, with over than 1 million killed or wounded since the start of the invasion. Why Americans volunteered to fight in Ukraine? The flow of American volunteers serving in Ukraine's armed forces has slowed since the first wave in 2022, but it has never stopped. Estimates vary from just over 1,000 to several thousand U.S. citizens who have joined the fight since Russia's full-scale invasion. But Kyiv does not disclose official numbers, the New York Times reports. The profile of these volunteers has changed. Many now are people without prior military experience, older recruits, or U.S. veterans seeking to restart their military careers. Their motivations are varied. Some are driven by outrage at Russia's aggression. Others come looking for a meaning, hoping to escape troubled lives back home. A few soldiers say they plan to remain in Ukraine after the war.
Whatever their reasons, enlistment in Ukraine has transformed this from a far-off conflict to a searing, defining experience for American volunteers. Many have experienced close calls, as Private Miller did, grievous wounds, the deaths of comrades, and drawn-out deployments in trenches and the ruins of cities.
Ukraine facing manpower shortages compared to Russia values these foreign fighters. They serve in regular units or in one or two international legions. Their pay is the same as that of Ukrainian soldiers, approximately $1,000 per month, with combat bonuses that can increase earnings by an additional $3,000. For many Ukrainians, the phrase coalition of the willing has become a bitter joke. As the Time reports, after Russia's largest air and drone assault since 2022, the end of the war feels further away than ever. At last week's summit in Paris, 26 countries pledged to provide Ukraine with the security guarantees, but crucially, only after the war. For a nation under daily attack, promises of post-war support sounds disconnected from reality. The idea that 20,000 to 40,000 foreign troops, mostly from countries with little experience in drone-heavy warfare, could reassure Ukraine's nearly 1 million strong army is seen in Kyiv as patronizing. The report also recalls the failures of the OSCE during the Minsk agreements, when Ukraine was scrutinized for violations while Russia faced no consequences. Still, despite skepticism, the coalition is beginning to matter. Europe is finally speaking to Putin in the only language he understands, the language of strength. For all his bluster, his regime is vulnerable. Russia, with the world's second largest army, has failed to defeat its smaller neighbor after more than 3 years of war. The Times concludes that it is naive to believe that Putin will ever enter genuine peace talks without pressure. A ceasefire in Ukraine can only be achieved by forcing his hand through sanctions or other means. Despite the display of unity, China, Russia, and North Korea are far from the true allies, the Wall Street Journal reports. At Beijing's recent military parade, Chinese leader Xi Jinping walked alongside with Putin and Kim Jong-un, a striking image that many saw as a symbol of a shifting global order. The journalists say the display highlighted Beijing's growing ties with Moscow and Pyongyang, both under Western sanctions and at war with Ukraine. Yet analysts stress that these relationships remain far from a genuine military or political alliance capable of dominating Eurasia. For now, China is cautious, seeking stability on its borders. Still, Western diplomats warn the gap is narrowing. The speed at which these differences are resolved could shape the new international system, particularly after Donald Trump disrupted Washington's traditional alliance in Asia and Europe. Carrie Milligan calls Russia's abduction of Ukrainian children a war crime. British actress and film producer has issued a stark reminder to world leaders about one of the darkest aspects of Russia's war in Ukraine, the abduction of thousands of children. Writing in The Telegraph, the BAFTA winner and three-time Oscar nominee said Russia has forcibly deported almost 20,000 Ukrainian children, though the true figure could be tens of thousands higher.
Some were removed from orphanages, others from their homes, schools, or shelters. Many have been sent to military camps or handed over to families who aren't their own in Russia. They have been told their parents don't want them anymore, told their language is forbidden, and manipulated into forgetting their Ukrainian heritage. This is not for their protection. It is not to ensure their safety. It is the deliberate rewriting of their identities.
That's all for now. For more content, please subscribe.